Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video we're talking about Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, Nintendo DS, PlayStation Vita, and more. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off here with something absolutely nuts. Xbox 360 emulation on the Xbox Series X and S. Yes, it's possible, and yes, it's Xenia. A brand new version here of Xenia UWP has just been released. This is crazy. For those who may be unaware, UWP stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or Universal Windows Platform. Now, it is worth pointing out that this is still in very early stages of development, and some stuff is still kind of broken. For example, some games crash randomly due to AMD drivers. And when a game requires an OS level of input, for example text or yes and no prompts and more, the game may freeze. However, this is a pretty awesome first step and it's only going to get better from here. I'm not necessarily sure how Microsoft is going to like this one, but at the same time there's not much they can do about it. It is free, it's open source, and as far as I'm concerned, it is legal. I'll leave a link to it in the description below and feel free to check it out. And speaking about emulation and legality, next up we're talking about Video Game Esoterica's latest video, one that I'd highly recommend checking out. It's titled Emulation is Legal for Now, Gaming Preservation and the Law for Retro Gamers. This is a highly informative video. It shows a court case that, well, is kind of the basis for emulation legality. And there's a whole bunch of relevant information in here, especially if you're a content creator. It lets you know what you can post and what you can't post. And if you're curious about emulation in general, you should probably check this one out. And on top of that, the description alone in this video is highly informative. Video Game Esoterica has a ton of experience in copyright law and is very well versed in the subject. Go check them out. Now, on a quick side note, that entire video was inspired because YouTube tried to take down one of Video Game Esoterica's videos, probably the last person they should have tried to do this to. Video Game Esoterica obviously had the video reinstated and created that video, and in my opinion is a huge win for emulation. I mean, knowledge is power and we're all better for knowing about it. Moving on, and we're talking about PlayStation 4 emulation with Obliteration, and this update is very interesting. I've been told that Obliteration is targeting getting ARM support, which potentially could lead to something like Android. Now, I wouldn't suspect many phones could actually run a PlayStation 4 emulator, but possibly in the future, like way in the future, this might become a reality, so it's nice to see. And speaking about things that are nice to see, next up we're talking about Rosalie's Mupen GUI, or RMG for short. It's N64 emulation, and this one just got a brand new update. Version 0.3.1 just dropped. We've got a whole bunch of fixes, some improvements, and also they added in support for NDD and D64 files and zip files. This one is free, it's open source. I highly recommend checking it out, so I'll leave a link to the GitHub in the description below. And moving on, and we're talking about Nintendo DS emulation with Drastic DS. Now, at this point in time, Drastic DS is not open source just yet. The developers have promised it's coming, it's just not here yet. However, Drastic is about to get an update. Unfortunately, I don't know when Drastic DS is going to become open source, but what I do know is that an update is about to hit the Google Play Store and you might want to keep your eyes peeled for it. As soon as I know more, you'll know more. But moving on, and speaking about knowing more, this one is actually pretty big for the Mr. CPS3 Emulation, or simulation, or however you want to split hairs about it, is about to become a reality on the Mr. They say the research on the CPS3 schematics is finally completed. A dedicated developer has worked full-time for 3.5 months. In my opinion, this is pretty darn impressive for the Mr. I was impressed with the quality of PlayStation 1 emulation, and now CPS3 is right around the corner. Next up, this is a real quick update about touchHLE, the iOS emulator that we talked about yesterday. There's a YouTube video showing off Super Monkey Ball from 2008 working within touchHLE. If you're curious about this one, I'll drop a link to the video in the description below. Feel free to check it out. Next up, we're talking about PlayStation Vita emulation on Android with Vita3k, and it appears that this emulator is going to be releasing pretty darn soon, possibly within a few days. Here's the progress list of everything that MacDo has to get done before this emulator is actually released, and if you take a look, everything is already done. Someone asked if MacDo was going to be dropping this emulator in a few hours, and MacDo said no, in a few days most likely. And for those who may be curious, the APK is 15 megabytes, but the firmware is around 100 megabytes, and then you got to worry about the games. And for those wondering about Gravity Rush, MacDo says Gravity Rush will work on Android once the memory mapping PR is merged and they implement the workaround on Android. Now, for those of you wondering about performance of Vita3k on non-Snapdragon devices, this person has Uncharted Golden Abyss up and running on a Samsung Galaxy Tab A8. I'll drop a link to the video in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. They're getting between 15 to 30 frames per second, give or take. Don't expect the world in terms of performance. It's going to vary widely from device to device. And check out the compatibility list on Vita3k's official website to see what games work and what don't. And last up here, we're talking about Nintendo Switch emulation on PC with Yuzu, and Yuzu just got a brand new update. Mainline version 13.27 has just dropped, and at the time of filming, they're already on mainline 13.29. But 13.27 here implements a turbo button. It will spam a specific button when it is enabled. The option can be found in Configure and Control, and then right-click on the button that you wanted to enable turbo for. So here's Yuzu 13.27 up and running, and all I'm going to do here is right-click on the L button, and you can see Clear, Invert Selection, Toggle button, and Turbo button, so it's right there on the menu. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a ton today, and I've got a ton lined up already for tomorrow. Let me know your thoughts about anything we talked about today in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.